Welcome, weary traveler of the night, to another quiet voyage through the forgotten shadows of history. What hidden force allowed Solomon to bend demons to his command as if they were obedient servants? Was it a power so feared by ancient magicians that they never dared speak it aloud? The church tried to bury it, yet the whispers refused to die. Could the glory of the temple have been built not only by men, but by a forbidden alliance? And if such an alliance existed, who guards that secret now, locked in silent stone? In the still heart of Jerusalem, where time folds into walls worn by centuries, the story of King Solomon shifts into a shape few have ever imagined. People remember him as a wise, noble ruler. But scattered fragments of older accounts speak of something stranger, something hidden just beneath the accepted tale. According to these ancient records, Solomon did not raise his temple with mere stone and labor, but with a power drawn from another realm. Long before machines, long before modern tools existed, Solomon built a structure so vast and flawless that many claimed it surpassed human ability. Some believed he was not alone, that he had help, not from craftsmen, but from spirits. Ancient scrolls describe a secret pact, sealed with a ring and a name forbidden to be spoken. This ring gave Solomon command over demons, binding them to his will. He summoned them through symbols, shackled them with sacred words, and forced them to build. Some say the blocks of the temple were shaped by invisible hands. But if these tales hold truth, who were these beings? From where did Solomon learn to call them? Could his legendary wisdom have come not only from divine favor, but from something older, something that waited in the dim corners of forgotten history? For centuries, holy writings have been revised, altered, or burned. And yet, stories of Solomon's hidden knowledge survived, passed quietly through generations. Some whispered from teacher to student, others tucked away in banned books, private libraries, and even vaults beneath the Vatican. Why hide these writings? What fear drove the church to silence them? If Solomon truly summoned spirits to build his temple, what did he give in exchange? Power of that magnitude always demands a price. Some legends claim he ruled the spirits with fairness. Others say pride corrupted him, loosening his control. Could the fall of the temple have been caused not only by invading armies, but by the breaking of a spiritual contract? The temple was more than a sacred building. It was the shining symbol of a kingdom at its height, a place where heaven and earth were believed to meet. But what if its foundations held something else? Something trapped beneath the stone, bound by ancient words long forgotten? And if so, who stands watch over that force now? Could someone still possess the ring? Are there sealed chambers in the Temple Mount untouched for centuries, not guarded for protection, but out of fear? Hidden markings carved deep into the stone hint at languages older than Hebrew, older than Greek. These symbols appear in rare manuscripts and mysterious carvings across distant lands, suggesting Solomon's knowledge originated far beyond Israel. Where did it truly begin? Some trace its roots to Egypt, where magicians guarded forbidden rites. Others to Babylon, where priests etched the names of spirits into clay tablets. Is it possible Solomon did not create this system, but inherited it? And if so, who passed it down to him? These questions offer no final answers, only faint trails. But scholars, mystics, and secret societies have followed those trails for centuries. Perhaps some follow them still. The deeper one descends into the origins of Solomon's temple, the more blurred the boundaries become between faith, fear, and forbidden knowledge. Was the temple a house of God, or also a prison for something older than Scripture? The Church has long guarded relics and documents that do not fit the accepted story. Could this be one of them? The ring, the names, the seal. What would happen if someone uncovered them today? Some say the power has faded with time. Others insist it merely sleeps, waiting for the next person bold enough to unlock it. And if someone does, will they command it, or will it consume them? These are not just ancient tales. They are warnings carried across the centuries. For behind the holiness of the first temple may lie a secret not of light, but of domination. A pact made not for worship, but for labor. A deal that empowered one king and left its mark in stone, a mark that still seems to breathe. As the sun sinks behind the walls of the Temple Mount and shadows stretch across its stones, the questions only deepen. Not every answer brings comfort, and not every silence is harmless. If Solomon struck a pact, how did he force the spirits to obey? The truth may rest in the strange power he wore upon his hand. Hit like and subscribe for more forbidden clues hidden in plain sight. Across whispered legends and forgotten manuscripts, one object remains tied more closely to King Solomon's power than anything else: a ring. It was not fashioned from ordinary gold, nor carved with simple decoration. This ring, according to ancient voices, carried a seal unlike any other. Etched into its surface was a symbol bearing the name of God itself, a mark so sacred that even spirits trembled before it. With this ring, Solomon could summon demons, command them, bind them, and send them to work as though they were unwilling servants. Ancient records insist the ring did not merely influence, it compelled. No spirit could defy its seal. One command from Solomon, and they moved under the crushing force of his will. But where did this ring come from? Some traditions claim it descended from heaven, gifted by the archangel Michael to strengthen a righteous king. Others whisper a darker lineage, that Solomon stole its design from older magical traditions, or unearthed it in Egypt or Babylon. Perhaps it was an ancient device passed through many hands long before it reached Jerusalem. And if that is true, then what powers had already been awakened by the time Solomon received it? The text known as the Testament of Solomon, believed to have been written centuries after the king's death, describes this ring in remarkable detail. It tells of a band forged from brass and iron, two metals rarely joined together. Engraved upon its surface was the name of God, a seal that made spirits flinch in fear. With the ring, Solomon could call demons by name, demand they reveal their powers, and force them to confess the secrets of defeating them. Once subdued, many of these spirits were compelled to labor beneath the temple, cut in stone, lifting impossible weights, shaping the sacred ground without resistance. Or so the stories claim. But what if the ring was more than a tool? What if it was a hidden snare? Power changes those who wield it. Ancient scholars warn that the ring carried a curse, that even those who used it for righteous purposes would pay a price later. Some believed Solomon himself was marked by the very spirits he commanded. They claimed the ring altered him, that he grew dependent on the spirits rather than on his people or his priests. Others believed it was a relic never meant for human hands at all. Could this explain the sorrowful tone of Ecclesiastes, as if written by a man who had seen too much, touched something unnatural, and suffered in silence? After Solomon's death, mystics say the ring was hidden away, too dangerous to pass down, too easily misused, too tempting for any successor. Could it still exist somewhere today, locked in a forgotten vault or sealed in a private collection? If discovered, Would its power still function? Could it summon the same spirits again? And if so, would they obey or seek vengeance? The symbol often called the Seal of Solomon appears across ancient cultures. Some depict it as a hexagram, two interlocking triangles, one pointing upward, the other downward. Later generations interpreted it as a symbol of balance, the union of spirit and matter, or even the bond between human and demon. But these meanings evolved over centuries. In its earliest form, the seal may have been a cipher, a secret mark understood only by those who held the ring. Why did this symbol spread so widely? Why does it appear in places with no direct link to Jerusalem? Could the knowledge behind the ring have passed quietly from group to group, hidden beneath ritual and myth? The church seldom speaks of the ring. It appears nowhere in accepted scripture. Yet its legend survives in apocryphal writings, medieval grimoirs, and oral traditions. Why was it never fully erased? Who ensured its survival, and for what purpose? During the Middle Ages, stories emerged of men claiming to have found Solomon's ring and used it to summon spirits. Most were dismissed as heretics or madmen. Some vanished entirely, their writings confiscated, hidden away by authorities. Could any of them have touched the same power, even for a brief moment? And if so, what did they witness? The idea of a single object capable of commanding spirits may sound mythical, yet in the realm of hidden history, such objects appear again and again. Rings, staffs, tablets, each tied to powerful rulers and their strange abilities. Could these legends point to a universal, ancient science disguised beneath different names? If Solomon's ring was real, then it was far more than metal and engraving. It was a key, a command, a gate between worlds. And somewhere in the shadows of history, that gate may still remain open. Centuries after Solomon's reign, a mysterious manuscript began circulating quietly among secret circles of the ancient world. It bore no royal seal, no temple endorsement, and no approval from any religious authority. It carried a simple title, the Testament of Solomon. Inside, it told a story few dared to speak aloud. It claimed Solomon built the temple not with human hands alone, but through mastery over demons. It named them one by one, spirits bound by strange powers and ancient oaths. Each spirit described had a form, a purpose, and a weakness. Using his ring, Solomon interrogated them, forced them to reveal their abilities, and recorded the knowledge. Some spirits caused illness, others stirred storms. Some warped the earth or bent metal. Yet all of them, according to the text, were compelled to labor beneath the temple, moving great stones and shaping sacred ground in ways no human artisan could explain. How did such a bold and detailed manuscript survive if it were merely fantasy? Was it written by madmen, or by those who knew a truth too dangerous for public view? Scholars have wrestled with this question for generations. Some call the text a forgery created in the early Christian era. Others insist it draws from far older sources, records hidden during temple wars and preserved by those determined to protect forbidden knowledge. If so, who kept these fragments alive? And why cloak them in symbols and allegory? The Testament describes not only the demons, but also the tools used to control them, the power of divine names, the intervention of archangels, and the hidden architecture of the spiritual realm. Was this the true source of Solomon's wisdom? Or was it knowledge borrowed from older civilizations like Egypt, Sumer, or Babylon? Could Solomon's legend be an echo of earlier kings who commanded unseen forces? The manuscript also delivers warnings. It says spirits may deceive, seek revenge, or twist commands if given the chance. Why would a story of a holy king include such dark teachings? Was it written to caution or to instruct those who wish to follow his path? The Testament never entered any official scripture. It was rejected, silenced, and labeled heresy. Yet it resurfaced in medieval monasteries, in private libraries, in tattered translations passed quietly from one hand to another. If it were only a tale, why did powerful institutions try so hard to bury it? Symbols from the Testament appear carved into old European churches, hidden in corners or woven into stained glass. Did the builders know their meaning, or were they unknowingly preserving ancient secrets? Names recorded in the Testament reappear in later grimoirs, books like the Lemegeton and the Ars Goetia. Are these copies, expansions, or distant echoes of one forbidden source? What if the Testament of Solomon is the root of Western demonology? What if it brings us closest to the truth of what happened beneath the temple walls? Could this manuscript have been Solomon's own record, copied and shared by those who served him or guarded his tools? Or was it written by a witness, someone who saw too much and tried to preserve the story before it was erased? No one knows who authored it, but its details are too strange, too precise, to dismiss entirely. The Testament documents not only how spirits were controlled, but how they could be used to heal, to predict, and even to teach. They say Solomon's wisdom built a kingdom, but some whisper his true power came from something far older, far more hidden. Not merely a gift to build a temple, but a knowledge that allowed him to understand the world in ways centuries could not explain. If this knowledge survived in secrecy, who carried it after him? And could some still guard it today? The Testament of Solomon has long been treated as a legend, yet, beneath its surface, it feels less like a tale and more like a map, a guide to forces quietly shaping the shadows of history, forces few dare to acknowledge, though their echoes appear in forgotten symbols, lost books, and the silent fear of what may sleep beneath sacred ground. Among the strangest parts of the Testament is its list of 72 beings, each with a name, a form, a purpose, and a weakness. These spirits were not described vaguely. They were recorded like entries in a hidden directory. Some appeared with many heads, others as shifting shapes with eyes like flame or voices that moved the air before their bodies did. According to the writings, Solomon summoned each one through a ring, bound them using sacred names, and demanded they reveal their abilities. Some could ruin harvests, spread sickness, or turn kings against one another. Yet Solomon did not cast them away. He gave them tasks, cutting stone, shaping metal, tunneling through rock, building the great temple not only with human labor, but with hands unseen. But were these truly demons, or coded teachings disguised as spirits? Ancient sciences wrapped in symbolic language so only the initiated could understand. As centuries passed, the list of 72 transformed into a system. Medieval grimoires, manuals of hidden knowledge, retained the same names, the same ranks, the same powers. The Ars Goetia mirrored the Testament so precisely that many wondered who protected this lineage of knowledge. Secret scholars, silent schools, or perhaps the very institutions that forbade their use. Some believed the church kept these texts locked away, studying them in private, while condemning others for even mentioning them. The spirits were arranged like an army: kings, dukes, marquises, knights. A strange hierarchy that mirrors ancient Sumerian and Egyptian cosmologies. If Solomon inherited this knowledge rather than creating it, then its true origin may stretch back to civilizations older than Israel, places where forces of nature were personified as beings, long before the word demon existed. Even the number 72 carries weight. It appears in Babylonian star charts, in the movement of the heavens, in the degrees of the zodiac. Could each spirit represent not just a being, but a fragment of time, a corner of space, a law of nature? Some modern researchers believe these spirits were never meant to be taken literally. They were codes, each name protecting a cluster of dangerous knowledge. Only those holding the key could unlock what the symbols truly meant. Perhaps this is why traces of the 72 appear in medieval cathedrals, in carvings no visitor notices, in patterns stonemasons repeated without explanation. Were these mere decorations, or quiet tributes to a system whispered through generations of builders? Some rituals and secret societies echo Solomon's methods. Circles drawn carefully, numbers repeated with precision, words spoken at exact moments. Are these coincidences, or remnants of an ancient framework preserved behind closed doors? Those who study the 72 often describe strange dreams, sudden clarity, or the unsettling sense of being watched. Are these tricks of the imagination, or signs that something old still listens from behind the veil? Solomon's temple is gone, but the forces said to have shaped it remain in writing, in symbols, and perhaps in silence, waiting for another voice to call them. And if they ever return, will they come as builders or as judges? Many ancient accounts suggest Solomon did not discover this power alone. Angels, they say, guided him, Michael, Raphael, Uriel, bringing him the ring, the seal, and the names that could command lower spirits. In this telling, Solomon was not a sorcerer, but a chosen vessel entrusted with dangerous knowledge to protect his people. These angels revealed sacred words written on scrolls, rings, and chains. Iron, feared by spirits in many traditions, was shaped into bindings inscribed with symbols no spirit could break. Were these simply metaphors for discipline and order? Or were they tools crafted for a purpose lost to time? Some ancient writings hint that priests once knew how to forge chains that carried more than weight. Chains that carried meaning. Symbols etched into metal, crafted not for war, but for obedience. Obedience from forces no human eye could see. Stories speak of vessels and jars, tablets and chambers lined with markings designed to trap whatever dared to slip between the unseen folds of the world. One tale whispers that after questioning a spirit, Solomon sealed it inside a jar of lead and buried it beneath the temple. Others say he cast them into the sea or hid them in the deserts, bound in place by divine names carved into iron. But what were these names? And how could writing alone hold such power? Across the ancient world, words were never just words. In Egypt, they guarded tombs. In Mesopotamia, they shaped fate. Perhaps Solomon's system followed the same belief, that sacred names were forces in themselves, not spoken, but awakened. The tools he used, the ring, the seal, the chains, were described as physical objects, yet their strength came from symbols that pointed toward truths older than any religion we know. Did these markings work because people believed in them, or because they touched something deeper, older, woven into the nature of the universe? And if angels truly taught Solomon these symbols, why were they so similar to what later generations would condemn as forbidden magic? Some say the difference lay in purpose, that Solomon used these methods for peace, not ambition. But even that invites doubt. If angels gave him power over spirits, did they approve of him using it? Or was he being tested, measured not by his wisdom, but by what he would do with it. Perhaps this is why later writings show Solomon wrestling with pride, fear, and loss. Why would a man chosen by heaven need chains to hold spirits down? Certain ancient texts warn against speaking divine names, claiming some were never meant for human lips. Yet Solomon used them freely, and may have taught them to priests and scribes. How far did this knowledge travel? Was it copied, stolen, hidden? Could this explain why medieval grimoires echo Solomon's symbols so precisely? Why summoning circles, pentacles, and sacred geometry in European churches resemble shadows of a forgotten system? Over time, meanings faded. Chains became metaphors. Seals became star shapes. But in secret, a few may have preserved the original understanding, whispered from teacher to student, carried across continents, surviving in the margins of books others feared to open. Could some of those sacred words still exist today, passed only in darkness? And if someone recreated Solomon's tools now, would they still work? Would the spirits obey or return with anger after centuries of silence? The idea that angels taught Solomon to command demons forces a chilling question. Was Solomon the master or the pawn? If his chains once held, what happens if one of them breaks? These are not merely symbols. They are remnants of an age when heaven and earth were believed to meet through a single man, a king who held chains of metal and chains of mystery, tools that may still lie buried somewhere, waiting to be feared or found. The Temple of Solomon has always been admired as a wonder of its time, not because of size alone, but because of its impossible precision. Stones weighing many tons cut so smoothly they needed no mortar. Walls covered in gold carried from distant lands. Foundations carved deep into the mountain, as if by hands far stronger than human. For a small kingdom with limited manpower, historians have long asked the same question. How was this done so quickly and so perfectly? Some legends whisper an unsettling answer, that Solomon did not rely only on craftsmen or workers, but on spirits bound by his ring. Beings that labored beneath the earth, carving tunnels, moving stones too heavy for any animal, reshaping the mountain itself. If the temple was raised in 7 years, perhaps its builders were not entirely human. Old texts describe spirits assigned to specific tasks. One could shift the air. Some ancient writings speak of spirits shaped not just by imagination, but by elements themselves. One was said to command fire. Another could soften stone as if it were clay. A third moved with air and shadow. If these were mere metaphors, they were strangely specific, almost technical. But what if they were not metaphors at all? Some believed these beings were real, not demons in the modern sense, but ancient intelligences connected to nature, to the elements, to forces older than recorded time. If they existed, they may not have appeared as monsters, but as movements of light, currents of energy, forms shifting between shadow and flame. What if Solomon's temple was not only built with them, but built for them, or even to contain them? Beneath the Temple Mount, modern surveys have uncovered strange cavities, sealed corridors, and blocked chambers. Some appear natural, others clearly carved, yet none are fully explored. Access is tightly restricted. The ground beneath the temple has become as guarded as the holy structure that once stood above it. Could something still rest below? Something sealed? Something waiting? Medieval writings mention groups who attempted to dig under the site, including the Knights Templar. They believed secrets were buried there, perhaps artifacts linked to Solomon himself. But what were they truly seeking? Tools, scrolls, or something that remained alive beneath the stone. Old legends describe workers who labored beside unseen beings, figures glimpsed only in flashes of darkness or seen moving at impossible speed. Some accounts tell of stones that shifted on their own, or of tasks completed overnight by hands no man could see. If spirits worked while humans slept, why did no one resist them? Were they feared, or were they promised something in return? If these beings helped raise the temple, was it through command or through a negotiated pact? And if there was a pact, what price did it demand? The foundations might hold clues. Some stones came from far-off places, unlike any in the region. Some bear cuts no known tool from the era could produce. One theory suggests the use of vibrations, chant, tone, or sacred sound to shape and move these stones. Certain ancient texts mention Solomon using music or divine names to direct the spirits. If true, this would place the temple alongside other ancient wonders, where massive stones were moved with unknown methods. Could it be that across the world, temples and tombs were built not solely by humans, but by human hands guided by something else? Something older? Something unrecorded? Some believe that rulers like Solomon possessed knowledge not passed through books, but through whispers from beneath the earth. Knowledge granted, taught, or traded. But what happened to the beings who helped him? Were they dismissed? Bound? Freed? Or do they still linger in the dark spaces beneath stones untouched for over 2,000 years? Some fear that disturbing the earth beneath the temple could awaken something ancient. Others fear it was never asleep at all. The temple's beauty draws the eye upward, toward gold and cedar and legend, but its true mystery pulls us down into tunnels, into shadow, into the quiet question of who or what built the house of a king. And among all the symbols tied to Solomon, none has carried more mystery than the Seal of Solomon, the six-pointed star formed from two interlocking triangles. Today it stands as a widely known symbol of Judaism, but its origins are far older, deeper, stranger. Long before it became a religious emblem, it was said to hold power. Stories claim Solomon used this symbol not only on his ring, but on scrolls, chains, doorways, and walls, marking anything meant to bind or command spirits. How could a simple shape do this? Some say the seal was not simple at all. The twin triangles may have represented a cosmic balance, one pointing upward, one downward, expressing the union of spirit and matter, or a king standing between heaven and earth. Others believe it mapped the flow of ancient energy, a diagram of creation, a key encoded in geometry rather than language. This same shape appears in cultures far beyond Israel. In India, it shows up in some of the oldest tantric diagrams, carrying nearly identical meaning. The meeting of male and female, fire and water, sky and earth. A symbol shared by distant civilizations. A shape tied to balance, power, and hidden forces. A design used by a king who commanded spirits. Could it have been more than a symbol? Could it have been a key? In ancient traditions, the symbol we now call the Seal of Solomon was once something far greater. A whisper of power carved into the fabric of old worlds. In Islamic lore, it was said to command jinn. In Ethiopia, it guarded kings who claimed the blood of Solomon himself. How did one design travel so far across time, yet always remain tied to authority, protection, and control? Some believe the seal was not just a shape, but a language, something recognized by those who walk the boundary between the seen and the unseen. Others said it was a diagram of vibration, a pattern that when drawn with intention and awakened by chant, could open a gate between realms, a passage between what we see and what waits behind the veil. Across old kingdoms, amulets bearing this star were worn to ward off spirits or curses. But why would this specific geometry frighten beings without bodies? One theory suggests that the symbol mirrors the hidden architecture of creation, the pull of magnetism, the path of light, the balance of natural forces. If spirits are born of those forces, could they sense the pattern and feel drawn to it, or bound by it? Some say Solomon did not invent the seal. They say he saw it, a revelation, a vision of the universe's structure. And in that structure, he found a way to command the invisible. The number 6, woven into the star's design, was anciently tied to order and completion. In early mystical teachings, 6 points mark the directions of the world: north, south, east, west, above, and below, all meeting at a single center. Was the seal meant to mark that center? A point of absolute equilibrium? A throne over space itself? If so, then perhaps the Temple of Solomon did more than house the Ark. Perhaps its walls hid the seal not only in decoration, but in design. Its halls, pillars, and chambers mirroring the same sacred geometry, encoding the same invisible map. Through the Middle Ages, the seal passed quietly into magical texts. Engraved onto rings, it guided those who dared to summon or repel spiritual forces. Some variations drew beings near, others sealed them away. Knowledge like that was never meant for open teaching. It remained hidden, guarded in whispers, bound in forbidden books, passed only to the few who understood the weight of command. Even now, the star appears in old buildings, royal crests, faded manuscripts. Most people pass by without noticing, but those who study the deep layers of history see it for what it was: a memory of a time when knowledge was sacred, dangerous, and never free. Perhaps Solomon did not leave the seal behind as a symbol of his reign, but as a warning of what that power cost. And if someone were to trace the lines again and speak the forgotten words, would it still open what it once did? In the ancient world, names carried essence. A name could bless, create, or destroy. And no name was more feared than the true name of God. So sacred that it was never spoken aloud, replaced instead with titles in reverence and caution. Yet stories from the edges of old traditions claim that Solomon knew this hidden name, that he used it not as a weapon, but as a key that opened the invisible world and bound spirits with nothing more than sound. Where did he learn it? Some say angels whispered it to him. Others claim he uncovered it in coded passages of the Torah, meanings folded beneath letters only he could see. If he spoke it, what did it unlock? Was it a doorway to divine wisdom, or a portal that should have remained sealed? Early mystical teachings describe the name of God as more than 4 letters: a living force, a fire, a breath. Beneath the holy name lay 72 others, each tied to creation and spiritual dominion. These names were never spoken publicly. They passed from teacher to student with oaths of silence, guarded behind generations of secrecy. Could Solomon have known them all? Some texts say yes. They claim he did not speak just one name, but many. Combinations that bent the laws of the hidden world. Words that allowed him to command what ordinary men feared to even imagine. And this leads us to the deeper question. But if the name truly gave him such power, was Solomon still acting under divine will, or had he stepped beyond it? Some old rabbinical tales whisper that pride crept into his heart, that he began to trust in the name more than in the one who gave it. And when pride enters sacred knowledge, balance begins to fracture. Could this be why his kingdom fell into turmoil long after his reign? Why the temple he built with such devotion was later destroyed, not merely through invading armies, but as a consequence of touching something too great to hold. Through the centuries, the power of the name continued to echo quietly. Medieval mystics claimed that even a small fragment of it could bring visions, healing, or moments of prophecy. But misusing it, they warned, invited madness or death. Certain sects forbade writing the name at all unless the scribe was in a state of complete purity. If Solomon broke that rule, even for a noble purpose, what forces did he invite into the world? Some believed the very stones of the temple absorbed the vibration of that name, keeping its echo long after Solomon's voice faded. And the Ark of the Covenant, according to some ancient whispers, held more than commandments. It held the secret behind the name itself. When Solomon placed the Ark within the Holy of Holies, was he anchoring the divine presence through prayer or through sacred sound? Some Kabbalists taught that the temple was not only a building, but a vessel shaped like a syllable, a word made of stone. Places, measurements, materials, all arranged to hold something that could not be spoken. Kabbalistic writings also speak of the Shem HaMepharash, the explicit name of God, said to contain 72 parts, and Solomon controlled 72 spirits. Was this a coincidence? Or did he use divine names to balance their darker counterparts, like weights on a cosmic scale? And if that balance ever slipped, what would happen? Would those spirits be freed? Would the world tilt out of harmony? Some say it already happened, that the chaos of later centuries was the slow unraveling of a pact once broken. Even now, the true name is avoided in everyday language, yet fragments appear on amulets, in hidden prayers, spoken only once a year by the holiest of priests. Could someone speak it today? And if they did, would it open the same gates Solomon dared to enter, or tear them wider than ever before? Perhaps the name remains hidden, not to protect the divine from us, but to protect us from what it awakens. For centuries, the Temple Mount has stood at the center of faith and mystery, but beneath its stones, deeper than tourists or scholars ever walk, lies a legend whispered only in secret texts. A story of a lost chamber sealed beneath Solomon's temple, a room untouched by time and unknown to the world above. This chamber, they say, was no ordinary vault. It held the knowledge Solomon feared, the rituals too dangerous to teach, the objects that even he refused to leave in open view. Some claim spirits carved it. Others say it was sealed with symbols that only respond to divine names. No one agrees on what rests inside it now, but all versions share a single idea. Whatever is down there was never meant to be found. Old accounts speak of strange sounds beneath the Temple Mount, as if the stones themselves still breathe. Excavators reported hallways ending in smooth walls that felt wrong, walls that echoed hollow when touched. But what if those walls weren't endings, but entrances? Hidden behind illusions placed by beings not bound by human sight. Secret maps drawn by forbidden scholars point to a hollow beneath the Holy of Holies. There, they claim, Solomon stored not just relics, but knowledge. Scrolls, names, tools that could summon, bind, or erase. Were these hidden to protect humanity, or to protect the world from them? The chamber was said to be cursed, guarded not by blades, but by words. Inscriptions that twist the mind of anyone who reads them with arrogance. Perhaps this is why no one has ever uncovered it. Maybe Solomon set traps made of meaning rather than metal. Some mystics described a room of shadow and light where Solomon went alone. Some say he communed with spirits. Others believe he went there to weep for what he saw. His later writings, especially Ecclesiastes, carry a tone of sorrow, of wisdom turned heavy. Could they be fragments of what he found in the darkness below? During the Crusades, the Knights Templar spent years tunneling beneath the Temple Mount. What were they looking for? History is silent, but legends are not. Some say they found a part of the chamber. Others claim they fled from something that moved in the dark beneath the stone. If they did uncover anything, where did it go? Was it carried to Europe? Or reburied even deeper? Over the centuries, certain rabbis hinted at the chamber, but warned scholars not to pursue it. In mystical teachings, some levels of knowledge are forbidden not because they are false, but because they are too true. Was the chamber one such level? A place both symbolic and real, waiting only for someone with the right heart and the right name to open it. Even today, access beneath the Temple Mount is tightly controlled. Officially, for safety. Unofficially, perhaps for secrecy. What if the chamber were discovered? Would it reveal forgotten wisdom or unleash something that has slept for ages? What if the spirit Solomon bound was sealed not just in rings and rituals, but in that chamber itself? A prison disguised as a vault. If its locks were built of words and belief, what becomes of them in a world where belief fades? Could the seals weaken? Could the old pacts break? These are questions no historian will answer, but the legend of the chamber remains, whispered in manuscripts, hinted in mystical lore, and echoed beneath the stones of the mount. If it exists, it may be the last untouched trace of Solomon's true power. A room built not for glory, but for warning. Long after Solomon's death, his influence spread far beyond Jerusalem. Not just in scripture, but in the secret practices of mystics across Egypt, Greece, Babylon. There, exorcists carried scrolls filled with strange names, many matching spirits from Solomon's lists. Greek oracles spoke of beings moving between worlds, their symbols resembling the seal of Solomon. Babylonian priests drove out shadow spirits with tools and chants that feel eerily familiar. Could all of this be coincidence? Or was a single system carried from culture to culture, like a hidden flame passed through generations? Some scholars believe that Solomon's methods, naming, questioning, binding, became the foundation of what we now call demonology. If this is true, then the exorcists of the ancient world were not inventing new systems. They were following one that had already proven itself. The Testament of Solomon, written long after his reign, describes how each spirit feared particular angels or divine names. Yet the same principles appear in Egyptian magic spells and Babylonian rituals meant to drive away unseen forces. Could these distant civilizations have drawn from a common root? Perhaps a hidden set of scrolls or teachings quietly carried forward after Solomon's time. Some suggest Solomon himself studied older systems before perfecting his own. His method may have been a refinement rather than a creation. Later priests in Alexandria, desert hermits in Syria, and Mesopotamian healers may have tried to trace his steps, crafting amulets, burning sacred oils, carving symbols into stone, mirroring what Solomon achieved with his ring and seal. Early Christian texts even mention saints who commanded spirits through Solomon's authority, the name alone sufficient to demonstrate power. How did Solomon's influence survive across centuries and continents? Why was it always tied to command over invisible beings? Secret schools preserved the teachings. In the Greco-Roman world, elite philosophers wrote of hidden names, sacred geometry, and angelic powers, echoes of Solomon's system. Were they piecing together fragments from original temple scrolls, or rediscovering a universal pattern for controlling the unseen? Over time, Solomon's name entered grimoirs, books used by exorcists and alchemists, containing invocations, spirit names, and seals closely resembling the testaments. Perhaps his work became the template for understanding the spirit world. Islamic tradition also remembers Solomon, Suleiman, as a prophet commanding jinn through divine will, with Arabic texts echoing Hebrew and Greek designs. Across cultures and languages, the same structure appears: hierarchies of spirits, summoning rules, protections, and symbols. All may stem from the same hidden source, too potent to forget. Even today, modern exorcisms, Catholic, Islamic, or otherwise, use gestures, words, and symbols tracing back to these ancient practices. Could Solomon have been the first to formalize this art? If so, he may be more than a king. Perhaps the original architect of exorcists, the first to map and command the unseen. Then came the fall of the first temple. History records Babylonian siege, rebellion, and conquest. Nebuchadnezzar tore down Jerusalem's walls, burned the temple, and exiled its people. Yet some whisper that the true shift happened below ground. The destruction may have fractured what Solomon had bound in stone and silence. Ancient sources hint that Babylonian soldiers entered the Holy of Holies, yet the Ark of the Covenant was never taken. Its fate remains a mystery. Could the Ark have been moved not merely to protect it, but because it held something alive, something dangerous, part of the system restraining the unseen? Legends speak of hidden chambers beneath the temple, sealed with iron, stone, and names long forgotten. Perhaps Babylon's greed cracked the outer shell, and forces bound beneath the temple were stirred. Strange events, blinding, sudden illness, inexplicable death, appear in records. Could these have been the work of what Solomon once contained? Later rabbis wrote that the Second Temple lacked the fullness of the divine presence. Was the foundation disturbed? Had the balance of forces beneath the First Temple shifted? Some mystics claim the Shekinah, the divine presence, withdrew before the destruction, making room for something darker to rise. When the Second Temple was rebuilt under Persian rule, it lacked the original tools. No Ark, no Urim and Thummim, no sacred fire. Were these lost in Babylon or hidden to prevent what was sleeping from awakening? Solomon's temple was unique, bridging heaven and earth, woven with names, symbols, and designs meant to control more than ritual. Its destruction may have released or scattered what was once contained. The site remained contested for millennia, not only for stone and land, but perhaps for what pulses beneath the rock, even now. The Ark of the Covenant stands as a mystery within a mystery. Beyond the stone tablets of the Ten Commandments, it may have been a vessel of control, amplifying divine names, anchoring power, and containing forces that once roamed freely. Tales describe its deadly nature, its protection from the unworthy, its ability to strike or command. Could the Ark have been a prison? A weapon? A spiritual circuit connecting heaven and earth, part of a network including the seal and the ring. The Ark's design, particularly the cherubim, reflects symmetry similar to the seal of Solomon. Two forms guarding a sacred space, wings touching in perfect balance. Could this mirror the same principles used in his magical system? And if so, who taught him? Moses? Or did Solomon modify it in secret? When Babylon destroyed the temple, the Ark vanished. Some say Egypt, some say buried beneath a mount. But perhaps it disappeared to protect what it contained. Names, symbols, or even spirits that could not be safely released. In later centuries, seekers dismissed as treasure hunters may have pursued more than gold. They were chasing a key to command forces Solomon once ruled. If rediscovered today, would anyone know how to use it? Or would they awaken what has slept since the temple's fall? The Ark and the Seal were never separate. Together, they formed a system, a ring of command and a vessel of containment. One in the hand, one in the earth, shaping not just the kingdom above, but the unseen below. Once broken, could it ever be restored? The Second Temple rose centuries later, yet lacked the splendor and power of the first. Its Holy of Holies stood empty, the sacred tools gone. The mysterious forces, beings and names that once defined Solomon's temple were gone, leaving only silence. Had humanity lost the memory, or had it been deliberately erased to protect what should not be found? During the Babylonian exile, many of the old scrolls were destroyed or hidden. Priests and scribes who once safeguarded Solomon's deeper teachings may have died or refused to pass them on. Could it be that those who returned to rebuild the temple did so without access to the full design? Or were they warned not to use it again? The Second Temple period was marked by stricter control. Practices once deemed sacred or dangerous were removed from public ritual. Magic, mysticism, and spirit communication were branded forbidden. Some texts hint that earlier generations had ventured too far, reaching into realms not meant for mortal hands. The silence of the Second Temple was not only physical, it was ideological. It rejected the old ways. But what did they fear? That reviving Solomon's system might bring ruin again? Or did they know something deeper? That the temple itself had once acted as a gate, and rebuilding it without the proper tools required keeping that gate sealed. Many key items, the Ark, the sacred fire, the Urim and Thummim, were never recovered. Their absence was more than historical. It reflected a shift in spiritual understanding. Without them, the temple became a place of offering, not command. A place of worship, not control. Perhaps this was intentional, a decision to avoid repeating what Solomon had done. Some rabbis even wrote that the Shekinah, the divine presence, never returned. Was this disapproval or a safeguard? Mystical writings suggest certain names were no longer spoken, some scrolls locked away, and entry into spiritual realms was forbidden. Did leaders ban this knowledge to protect the people, or to ensure that no one could ever again wield Solomon's power? Over time, new sects emerged around the temple. Pharisees, Sadducees, Essenes. Each had its own interpretation of law, purity, and divine power. Yet none spoke of spirits, seals, or pacts. The language of command had become the language of silence. Perhaps the price of peace was the loss of wonder. Some knowledge may have survived, hidden in quiet circles, passed from master to student. But it was never again used to shape stone with invisible hands or hold spirit by sacred word. The Second Temple remained holy, yet never achieved the height or mystery of the first. When the Romans destroyed it centuries later, they found no ark, no glowing fire, no unseen guardians, only stone and silence. That silence continues to surround the Temple Mount today. After Solomon's kingdom fell, many believed his knowledge vanished with the stones. Yet whispers from the east tell a different story. Long before Rome's rise, the Magi of Persia, wise men, astrologers, priest scholars, were said to preserve fragments of a powerful secret. Some accounts suggest pieces of Solomon's teachings traveled eastward, carried by exiles, traders, or mystics who feared the knowledge would be lost forever. Could they have succeeded? Could remnants of Solomon's system have survived in Persian libraries, written in new symbols but holding the same codes? the Magi studied more than the stars. They explored spiritual forces, the alignment of heavens, and the power of names. Zoroastrian texts reference spirits bound by fire, controlled through words and geometric signs, ideas remarkably close to Solomon's system. Persian magic, or later Chaldean arts, included diagrams of stars, triangles, and intersecting lines, strikingly similar to the Seal of Solomon. Were these designs tools for summoning, or instruments to unlock hidden cosmic locks left by a forgotten king? Some historians note scrolls in Babylon after the temple's fall, written in a hybrid Hebrew-Aramaic, describing spirit names and angelic hierarchies. If these scrolls traveled east, they may have shaped Magi practices, creating a system unseen in the West for centuries. Perhaps this is why the Magi were revered, not only for wisdom, but as keepers of power. Early Christian texts describe the Magi who followed the star to Bethlehem as possessing knowledge of signs and sacred codes. Could their journey have been guided by something older than prophecy, a hidden remnant of Solomon's system, carried secretly across generations? By the Middle Ages, texts like the Picatrix and the Gayat al-Hakim surfaced in the Islamic world. Astrology, spirit names, and magical theory preserved Persian roots. Symbols, invocations, and charts mirrored concepts in the Testament of Solomon. Perhaps these books kept alive what Jerusalem tried to forget. Solomon's name appears across magical traditions because his system was never lost. It changed language, went into hiding, waiting for those who could recognize the code. In Arab tradition, Solomon was more than king or prophet. He was master of the jinn, beings of smokeless fire, older than humankind, invisible, capable of great feats. They could carry stones across deserts, whisper secrets to the wind, or strike armies without leaving a trace. Yet Solomon commanded them not with force, but with knowledge. How did he gain this power? And what did he offer in return? The Quran and other Arabic sources say Solomon received authority over the jinn by divine grant. Some traditions add conditions, a special ring engraved with a name known only to God, allowing him to summon and bind the jinn, forcing them to build, guard, or search the world for treasures. But the jinn were free-willed, not mere tools. Loyalty, rebellion, desire, they had all. Solomon may have brokered bargains, trading service for secrecy or shelter. Some stories speak of hidden chambers in his temple housing entire tribes of jinn who labored in exchange for protection. Others roamed, returning only when called. These were not servants. They were part of a complex system of magical governance, traveling across continents in moments, retrieving rare items, or delivering messages between worlds. Could Solomon's legendary wisdom have been shaped, in part, by what the jinn showed him? Hidden knowledge in the stars, secret paths across deserts, metals unseen by mortal eyes, underground springs. Some say the jinn revealed it all. If so, why would such beings obey a human king? Was it divine command alone, or something else? A name, a word, a pact that balanced fear and respect. In later Arabic grimoirs, Solomon's seal is described as engraved with ancient, unreadable inscriptions. These markings did not merely bind the jinn, they allowed commands to echo in their realm like rolling thunder. Some suggest the ring itself was crafted with the help of jinn craftsmen bound to the object as much as the king was. It became both symbol and chain, mastery and mutual dependence. Arab folklore tells of jinn who mourn Solomon's death, lingering near his tomb, waiting. Others celebrated, freed from service. But if truly released, why did later kings and magicians seek so desperately to reclaim Solomon's methods? Was his balance so unique that no one else could replicate it. Some legends say Solomon offered them a place in the future, promising not to reveal their true names. Could this be why so little survives in public texts? Perhaps part of his knowledge was willingly erased, a bargain for obedience during his reign. Even today, whispers persist. In parts of the Middle East, invisible gates of Solomon are said to exist. Ruins hum with their presence at dusk. Desert wells echo with unseen footsteps, and rings marked with six-pointed stars are buried for protection. Are these tales merely pride, or distant echoes of a real, ancient alliance? Across the ancient world, the image of a black cube recurs. Temples, tombs, altars. Its meaning is hidden, yet some forbidden writings tie it directly to Solomon and his control over spirits. Could the cube have been more than a symbol? A tool, a prison, a method of control? In Kabbalistic tradition, the Holy of Holies itself was a perfect cube. Was it meant to channel or contain spiritual energy? Mystical texts speak of dark stones used to bind unseen forces, pulsing with heat, humming with sound. Could one have rested beneath the temple or within the ark itself? Some traditions claim Solomon possessed a black cube engraved with markings to summon or dismiss spirits at will. Was it a focusing device, a doorway, a gate? The black cube is not unique to Israel. In Mecca, the Kaaba, a black stone cube, has long been a center of worship. Ancient Egypt used cube-shaped altars to connect with gods. Mesopotamia wore small black cubes as amulets against demons. Could all these cultures have inherited the same secret? The cube may represent containment, 6 faces, 4 corners, perfect edges, a vessel of divine energy. Was Solomon's cube a cage, holding beings, not objects? Some medieval travelers reported black cubes buried beneath ruins, wrapped in metal and covered with unreadable symbols. When disturbed, dreams, illness, and misfortune followed. Later secret societies adopted the cube as a marker of hidden chambers or sacred books, a symbol of creation and destruction, order and chaos. Many cubes were crafted from basalt, obsidian, or meteoric iron, dense, dark, magnetic, stones capable of storing energy. Could Solomon's cube have been alive with power? Its surface humming with names no longer spoken. Beneath the streets of Vatican City, in the Vatican Apostolic Archive, lies one of the most secretive collections of knowledge in the world. Miles of shelves, sealed rooms, manuscripts, royal letters, censored books. Some say fragments of Solomon's true writings are hidden here. Not scripture, but records showing how he summoned spirits, bound them, controlled powers even the early church feared. During the Crusades and Inquisition, manuscripts were seized, some burned, some kept. Could scrolls or grimoirs linked to Solomon's temple have been brought to Europe, hidden in vaults beneath the Temple Mount, smuggled by the Templars, passed to the church for protection, or hidden out of fear? Only selected scholars are granted limited access today. Could the Testament of Solomon lie within, in its original untranslated form? Books listing spirit hierarchies, ritual diagrams, or lost keys to command the unseen. 16th century popes collected forbidden knowledge, not to wield it, but to suppress it. Alchemy, astrology, demonology. Perhaps they recognized Solomon's story as a warning of power gained too quickly, control too absolute. Could these writings still be read? Or are the languages and symbols lost to time, designed to confuse the unworthy? Some even whisper of a black cube in the Vatican itself, sealed, warded, hidden. Myth, or the very reason no one may descend to the archive's lowest levels. The church has preserved, hidden, and studied but it can also erase. Could Solomon's knowledge have been deliberately edited from history, leaving only whispers behind? If his secrets remain in the archive, perhaps someone still remembers the system, keeping it silent, guarding a balance in a world still shaped by what Solomon began. The king who ruled spirits may not be gone. Only the world is yet to see him, or the knowledge he left behind. In the early 12th century, a group of armored knights arrived in Jerusalem, not to conquer, but to guard. They called themselves the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon. Today, they are remembered as the Knights Templar. Publicly, their mission was simple: protect Christian pilgrims traveling through the Holy Land. But soon after being granted quarters on the Temple Mount, something unusual began. The Templars started to dig. For nearly a decade, they tunneled beneath the sacred platform, under the ruins of Solomon's long-lost temple. But why? What were they seeking in the rubble of a kingdom vanished into legend? Some say they sought treasure. Others whisper they discovered something far more powerful. Fragments of Solomon's hidden writings, scrolls untouched since Babylonian exile, and perhaps even the ring said to command spirits. Historical records are scarce. The Templars kept their discoveries secret, but rumors spread quickly. Locals whispered of ancient vaults opened in silence, strange inscriptions revealed by torchlight, and mysterious objects removed without explanation. Some accounts claim that 9 knights descended into chambers unseen for centuries, guided not by chance, but by maps or secret scrolls. What led them to dig beneath one of the most sacred and contested places in the world? Some suggest they followed hints from early Christian sects or Arabic texts, pointing to a hidden chamber beneath the temple ruins. If so, who shared this knowledge, and what did they find when the earth finally gave way? When the Templars returned to Europe, their order grew wealthy, influential, and mysterious. Some believe this rise was fueled not by gold, but by knowledge. Knowledge that allowed them to build cathedrals with perfect geometry, craft rituals with esoteric symbols, and operate under a silence that rivaled even the church. Could these changes have stemmed from scrolls describing Solomon's system of spirit command? Certain medieval texts hint at a mysterious object passed through Templar hands, hidden in strongholds and guarded with oaths of blood. Was it a ring? A book? A manual of power? If the Templars truly possessed Solomon's ring, it could explain their sudden influence and the fear they inspired. Even the church, once their ally, turned against them. By the early 14th century, the Templars were accused of heresy, idol worship, and dark rituals. Were these accusations mere fabrications, or a response to knowledge the church feared? Some Templars confessed to worshipping a head, a face, or an object that revealed hidden truths. Was this Baphomet, or a distorted memory of the ring itself, an object not alive, but filled with presence? After the order was dissolved, many secrets vanished, castles emptied, libraries burned, yet some knights escaped, carrying fragments of knowledge hidden in the coded manuscripts and underground chambers. Could the roots of later secret societies, the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, trace back to what the Templars unearthed beneath the Temple Mount? In the centuries that followed, strange books began to surface across Europe. Grimoirs, filled with rituals, symbols, and spirit names, appeared quietly, hand to hand, often disguised in coded language or cloaked in religious imagery. Yet across borders and languages, a remarkable consistency emerged. The same names, hierarchies, and summoning diagrams, echoing the Testament of Solomon. Could these European grimoires be fragments of Solomon's system preserved by secret orders, passed down in shadow? Among the most famous is the Lemegeton, or Lesser Key of Solomon, compiled in the 17th century but based on older traditions. Its first section, the Ars Goetia, lists 72 spirits, complete with names, ranks, appearances and duties, mirroring the demons of the Testament of Solomon. How could such precise knowledge survive unless carefully preserved? Some historians believe that after the Templars were disbanded, their knowledge was smuggled into underground networks. Alchemists, mystics, scholars who sought understanding, not power. They reassembled teachings piece by piece, embedding them in books disguised as spiritual guides. These grimoires outline detailed rituals, circles drawn with exact precision, incense burned in measured amounts, names spoken in exact tones. These are not superstitions, they are systems, suggesting that the authors followed instructions from a source who understood the unseen. Many books were meant only for initiates, those trained in secrecy and restraint. Could the appearance of grimoires across France, Germany, England, and Spain reflect a broader network, a brotherhood bound not by country, but by knowledge? The knowledge may have passed from Templars to early Freemasons and Rosicrucians, creating a hidden curriculum that began in Jerusalem and moved across Europe. With the rise of printing in the Renaissance, more grimoires appeared. The Key of Solomon, the Grand Grimoire, the 6th and 7th books of Moses. While some were forgeries, others contained material too precise, too consistent to be invention. Perhaps these texts were tests, designed to separate seekers ready for the knowledge from those unprepared. Even the church feared these books. Grimoires were banned, associated with heresy and devil worship. But if superstition alone had triggered such fear, why suppress them so thoroughly? Could the church recognize echoes of the same systems it had hidden within its vaults? Perhaps these texts were resurfacing as the balance between control and chaos shifted once more. Researchers today studying grimoires still find patterns connecting them to older systems. Hebrew letter codes, ancient seals, spirit functions aligned with Middle Eastern cosmology. Could this be proof that the roots of these texts lie not in Europe, but in Solomon's temple? If so, every copied page, every diagram, every carefully measured ritual may be a distant echo of a king's forbidden craft. Even Gothic cathedrals, towering and radiant, may carry these secrets. Beyond their beauty, symbols hide in corners, archways, and floors. Circles, triangles, pentagrams, hexagrams appear again and again. These were not decoration, they were embedded codes, patterns of sacred geometry connecting physical spaces to unseen forces. Some historians suggest that master builders were initiates of a deeper tradition, perhaps descendants of those who inherited Solomon's designs through the Templars and mystical groups. Could cathedrals have been constructed not only to inspire, but to channel or anchor spiritual forces? Altars, bell towers, and doorways often follow proportions tied to the golden ratio, a number linked to harmony and, in magical construction, control. Perhaps these buildings were more than places of worship. Perhaps they were part of a system, a continuation of Solomon's methods, shaping not just stone, but influence over invisible realms. Medieval stonemasons guarded their knowledge fiercely. Their guilds had signs, passwords, and ranks, much like secret societies. Did they preserve more than building techniques? Could cathedral builders have passed down rituals meant to seal a site once construction was finished? Much like Solomon sealing spirits beneath his temple, some regions saw cornerstone boxes buried with small objects, herbs, metals, and symbols. These were not merely blessings, they were offerings. Could this mirror the offering Solomon was said to bury, keeping spirits bound to service? And then there is the music. Many Gothic cathedrals were tuned like instruments. Their halls resonated in precise ways, amplifying human voice and chanted word. Was this designed purely for worship, or for something older, something Solomon himself once used when commanding spirits by sound? Some believe these cathedrals acted as amplifiers, turning prayers, names, and tones into calls that reached other realms. If so, who answered these calls? The church denied any magical influence in its buildings, yet many master masons worked outside direct ecclesiastical control. Could they have labored with quiet approval, guarding knowledge too valuable to lose? And if their aim was to recreate something once held in Solomon's temple, did they succeed? Could parts of these cathedrals still hold dormant energies, hidden beneath tiles, carved into columns, or sealed beneath forgotten chapels? If Solomon's methods survived, hidden in stone and silence, then the great cathedrals of Europe may not just be monuments to faith. They may be ancient machines alive with power, built by men who remembered a king who once ruled spirits with a word and a seal. And if so, what else might remain hidden in plain sight? For centuries, the Freemasons have guarded their rituals with intense secrecy. Behind closed doors, beneath carved ceilings, they gather in halls designed with strange symbols, precise geometry, and tools that mirror ancient construction. Where did these traditions originate? Many within the order claim roots tracing back to the builders of Solomon's temple. Their rituals speak of Hiram Abif, the legendary architect of the temple. But beneath the story lies a deeper question. Did the Masons inherit more than legend? Could they have preserved fragments of Solomon's hidden science? The tools used in Masonic ceremonies, the compass, square, and level, are not mere symbols of stonework. In old grimoirs and magical diagrams, similar instruments draw spirit circles, plot sacred geometry, and measure spaces for summoning. Could these tools serve a dual purpose, linking architecture and the invisible world? Within Masonic rites, secret words, passwords, and signs are known only to initiates. One of the most whispered is the lost word of the master, said to be so powerful it could shape or destroy reality. This echoes traditions of Solomon using the true name of God to command spirits. Could the Masonic lost word be a survival of that forbidden utterance? And if so, who passed it on? Some researchers believe the Freemasons emerged from a hidden network of Templar survivors after the order was dissolved in the early 14th century. Symbols and stories appear in Masonic art, hinting that knowledge discovered beneath the Temple Mount may have been encoded and passed through generations. The layout of Masonic lodges mirrors Solomon's temple, with two pillars, Boaz and Jachin, at the entrance. Floors tiled in black and white symbolize duality, balance, and perhaps something more. Mystical traditions suggest such patterns focus spiritual energy and contain ritual space. Could Masonic halls be more than symbolic, designed as functioning replicas of the temple's original spiritual grid? In certain degrees of Masonry, initiates learn of squaring the circle, a geometrical principle linked to both philosophy and ancient magic. In Solomon's time, geometry was sacred, not merely mathematical. Could drawing perfect shapes be part of a deeper spiritual science, aligning the builder with divine patterns and granting access to unseen power? The Masons have long been accused of guarding secrets beyond fraternal concerns. Their influence is undeniable, yet some say the core mystery lies in spirit names, coded symbols, and a buried system used to command invisible forces. Could Freemasonry preserve methods tracing all the way back to Solomon? Rituals not fully understood by modern initiates, yet protected nonetheless. The focus on moral character and brotherhood may be a protective shell, guarding something older, more powerful, never spoken aloud. Some rare Masonic texts speak of raising the temple within. Taken literally, this could mean activating the same internal and external forces Solomon once harnessed. Are Masonic rites training exercises, preparing initiates to unlock the full system? And if they do, will they understand what they hold, or awaken what was carefully sealed beneath stone and oath? Of all relics said to survive Solomon's age, none evokes more fear than the ring. No mere ornament, it was said to be forged with divine authority, engraved with the names of God, and bound to spirits of another world. After Solomon's death, its trail grew cold. Some claim it was hidden, stolen, or sealed away forever. Yet whispers persist. From time to time, someone finds it, and disaster follows. Throughout history, there are reports of individuals uncovering ancient rings marked with strange symbols. Some vanish as quickly as they appear. Those who claim to possess them often meet sudden, violent ends, coincidence, or the price of touching what was never meant for mortal hands. The Testament of Solomon warned the ring was not only a tool of control, but a burden. To wear it meant wielding authority over invisible forces, drawing their attention. Would these spirits obey or seek revenge for centuries of bondage? Tales tell of monks discovering ancient rings sealed in iron caskets beneath ruined monasteries. Within days, the monastery burned, or the monks disappeared. During the Renaissance, alchemists and scholars wrote of talismans that spoke in dreams or cast strange shadows in mirrors. Were these remnants of Solomon's ring, or desperate copies, made in attempts to replicate its power? Even in modern times, researchers report incidents of unexplainable misfortune linked to certain ancient artifacts. In the early 20th century, one scholar obtained a ring from a Syrian merchant, said to originate in ancient Israel. Within weeks, his health collapsed, and the ring disappeared. Could this be part of a recurring pattern, a cycle of discovery, disaster, and disappearance? If the ring still exists, where might it lie? Some believe it rests beneath the Temple Mount, protected by ancient wards. Others think the Templars smuggled it to Europe, where it now sits forgotten in a private vault, mistaken for an ordinary relic. A few suggest the ring passed quietly through generations, its power diluted, but never gone. Could descendants of Solomon, or guardians of his legacy, still hold it? Do they even know what they possess? Or is the danger so well understood that its keepers vow never to use it, fearing what might return? Some grimoirs speak of false rings, objects resembling the original but lacking its full power. These fakes lure the greedy and the curious, unleashing minor spirits that mimic the true ring's effects. But only the real ring can awaken the 72, Solomon's full court of bound beings. If so, the stakes of discovery are far higher than most realize. The ring is not simply a key. It is a contract forged in metal, sealed in blood, echoing with commands older than history. To wear it again might not only restore forgotten power, but reopen gates, long sealed. Perhaps this is why every attempt to reclaim the ring ends in ruin, because the spirits it controls are not gone, only sleeping. And when they stir, they remember. Names, faces, oaths. They remember the ring. If someone today were to find it, truly find it, and speak the correct names, what would answer? Could the world bear the weight of a king's command spoken through a cursed seal? Or would that single act be enough to unravel the invisible order Solomon once ruled? The ring remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Feared, sought, never fully explained, and perhaps that is how it must remain. For some powers, even knowledge is a risk. For some relics, silence is the only protection between our world and what waits beneath. Across deserts, jungles, and mountains, among the ruins of long-lost civilizations, lie stones etched with symbols that defy easy explanation. Carvings on temple walls, buried pillars, and weathered blocks have puzzled archaeologists for centuries. Some are geometric, others spiral, yet many appear across cultures thought to have had no contact. A curious pattern emerges when these ancient symbols are compared to one often dismissed text, the Testament of Solomon. Within its pages are dozens of sigils, marks tied to spirits, tools, and commands used by the ancient king. Surprisingly, some of the same shapes appear in ruins as far from Jerusalem as South America, India, and Africa. Could it be coincidence, or something far more unsettling? Did the spirit Solomon commanded leave Israel, marking their presence in stone wherever they went? Some researchers suggest his spirits were not only bound to labor on the temple, but later released, sent across continents with instructions. Could their tasks have shaped sacred sites, influenced early architecture, or left traces yet to be understood? In Peru's Sacred Valley, megalithic walls show perfect joins and carved patterns closely resembling binding seals from ancient grimoirs. In India, mandala patterns echo star sigils associated with Solomon's spirit charts. Were these places part of a hidden network connected by more than stone or faith? If Solomon had knowledge spanning spiritual and cosmic realms, might he have charted global lines of energy, directing spirits to lock them down with symbols carved into the earth? Could these symbols be more than decoration, perhaps part of a code, sealing gates, anchoring spiritual energy, or mapping control points worldwide? In North Africa, square and hexagonal symbols appear on abandoned fortresses, some predating known settlements. Ancient Mesopotamian clay tablets describe words of power etched into gates and altars. Could these be evidence of Solomon's system spreading, intentionally or through the unseen travel of spirits? Some theorists believe Solomon's spirits left traces, marking paths or sealing locations once active with spiritual force. Could these symbols be footprints left by invisible builders, signs to others, warnings, or pieces of an unfinished puzzle meant for only a few to decode? Ancient Hebrew mystics believed symbols themselves held power, that geometry and lines affected the spiritual world as much as spoken words. If Solomon's system followed this principle, marking a stone with the right shape could act as a lock, a beacon, or a barrier. In this light, strange carvings across ancient ruins take on new meaning. They are not mere art, they are technology. Perhaps this is why certain locations still feel charged, sacred, even cursed. The stones themselves may carry instructions written long ago. And if so, what happens when those stones are moved, broken, or unearthed? Recent reports describe unearthed symbols causing strange events, vivid dreams, electrical anomalies, feelings of unease. Are these psychological effects, or echoes of forces from Solomon's time, still active? Some believe secret societies have tracked these carvings for centuries, mapping spirit lines, connecting sacred sites across continents. If so, are they protecting the knowledge, or using it? And if not all symbols are benign, could some mark darker forces, spirits bound to lands far from Jerusalem? The ruins no longer speak, yet their stones hold marks older than memory. They suggest Solomon's influence was not confined to one kingdom, His system, carried by spirits, may have left a global footprint. If fully deciphered, these codes might reveal a hidden map, one showing where Solomon's reach extended and where it still lingers. Among the many tales of Solomon's power, one story stands apart, a tale of betrayal, not triumph. Among the 72 spirits he commanded, one grew bold. In later Jewish and Islamic folklore, Modius is portrayed as a cunning demon, a king among spirits who did not serve quietly. According to some accounts, it waited, watched, and when the time was right, deceived Solomon himself. Could a single spirit truly overthrow the wisest king in history? And if so, was this the beginning of the fall of Solomon's empire? The tale goes that Solomon once summoned Asodius too often or too forcefully. The demon, growing resentful, found a way to reverse their roles. Using trickery, Modius reportedly stole Solomon's magic ring, the seal binding all spirits, and with it, his authority. Some versions claim the demon cast Solomon into the wilderness, disguised as the king, ruling in his place for years. During this time, the city prospered outwardly, but beneath the surface, something had shifted. If true, it raises troubling questions. How could a spirit bound by divine names and commands turn against its master? Was Solomon's power flawed, or was Modius's will simply too strong to contain? Perhaps repeated use of spiritual authority wore down the very balance the king was sworn to keep. Older texts describe Modius as clever, manipulative, dangerously intelligent. He was not merely rebellious, he studied Solomon's habits, rituals, and perhaps even his heart. Could he have learned to mimic the king's voice, mannerisms, even the use of divine words? If he truly took Solomon's place, how long did he rule from the throne? And did the people notice? Some versions of the tale say no one suspected a thing. The kingdom continued. Policies remained unchanged. The temple endured. Yet subtle signs appeared. Strange judgments, cold behavior, whispers in the royal court. Could this be how spirit influence lingers, not through chaos, but through quiet deception? If Asodius truly ruled, even briefly, could his presence have left a mark on Jerusalem, on the temple itself? Was anything added, changed, or corrupted during the time he wore Solomon's guise? And when Solomon returned, what did he find? Some stories say he wandered for years, forgotten, nameless, until he tricked the demon into returning the ring. But by then, had the damage been done? Did trust in his rule weaken? Did the spirits, once obedient, begin to question their master? Betrayal, even of a single spirit, is a fragile wound in the unseen order. Could this event explain why, after Solomon's death, the empire fractured and never again reached its former heights? Some mystical traditions suggest his later years were marked by decline, error, and temptation. Could these have been the shadow of Asodius, traces of darkness seeded while he ruled in disguise? One haunting theory proposes that Asodius was never fully expelled. Solomon may have regained his throne, but not all of his authority. Some part of the spirit could have remained hidden within the temple, sealed in stone or bound to artifact. Could this imbalance have contributed to the temple's later destruction, not by human hands alone, but by forces stirred through betrayal and spiritual unrest? Even today, the legend of Asodius lingers in occult circles. His name appears in grimoirs and possession accounts, always tied to deception and hidden power. Could his rebellion serve as a warning that no knowledge, no matter how divine, can fully control the unseen? As the years of his reign faded, Solomon, once called the wisest of kings, began to write words unlike any before. The ruler who commanded spirits and built the greatest temple now filled his scrolls with sorrow. In Ecclesiastes, his voice shifts from kingly authority to weary reflection. Vanity of vanities. All is vanity. Some hear simple wisdom in these words, others sense a deeper regret, mourning a power once wielded, now a burden. Could Solomon have been speaking of more than the passage of time? Could he have mourned the cost of commanding spirits, the unseen toll that knowledge demanded? His later writings reveal a shift from triumph to emptiness, clarity to doubt. He describes seeing all works under the sun and finding them meaningless. Some theologians attribute this to material excess, but others whisper of a more secret pain, the weight of a sacred bond broken too late. In old age, Solomon's wisdom darkened. He turned to foreign gods, built altars to strange deities, filled his court with those who worship powers beyond Israel. Did he seek to recapture the old magic, desperate to regain the fire that once moved through him? Or was he haunted by what he had unleashed beneath the temple, the restless voices of bound spirits? Ecclesiastes may conceal the confessions of a man who understood too late that the pursuit of divine control brings isolation, grief, and chains upon the heart. With much wisdom comes much sorrow, and with knowledge grief, he wrote. Perhaps more literally than we realize, the knowledge of forbidden arts became the weight that bound him. Some traditions say that in his later years, Solomon heard whispers from the spirits he once commanded, reminders of promises broken, of powers misused. Could this be why his writings dwell on futility? Why he saw earthly labor as a mirror of the emptiness left when sacred order is disturbed? In youth, Solomon sought wisdom above all. In age, wisdom itself became a punishment. To know too much, to bend unseen servants, to speak forbidden names, such acts may open doors that never fully close. Ecclesiastes reads like a confession veiled in philosophy, a man standing at the edge of vast silence, warning that perfect understanding carries a hidden cost. As his reign ended, whispers claim Solomon made one final move to protect the knowledge he once wielded. Rather than destroy the texts that commanded spirits, books inscribed with sacred names, coded rituals, dangerous truths, he ordered them buried. Deep vaults carved beneath the earth, protected by curses, geometric locks, and guardians sworn to secrecy. Could these vaults still exist beneath the ruins of Jerusalem or under layers of forgotten lands? And if so, who guards them now? Some scholars point to accounts of scrolls hidden in hollow earth, written in ink that fades from the unworthy eye, containing diagrams mirroring spirit circles later seen in medieval grimoirs. These texts may preserve a purer, uncorrupted form. Could the writings we've uncovered be fragments, while the originals remain untouched in chambers lit only by memory? Mystical traditions speak of a small group of scribes, loyal to Solomon, tasked with hiding these writings. Their line vanished, their task known only through faint traces in coded texts. Could their descendants still walk among us, preserving a legacy from the golden days of the United Kingdom? After the First Temple's destruction, many believe the Ark of the Covenant vanished. But what if it wasn't alone? Scrolls, rings, tablets of Solomon's spirit science may have been smuggled away under fire and smoke. Texts from Qumran and the Dead Sea Scrolls hint at secret knowledge, buried for the sons of light to uncover at the end of days. Were these references to Solomon's lost works too dangerous for the world to wield? In Egypt, tombs contain scrolls in Hebrew and early Coptic, with diagrams and spirit names absent from Egyptian magic. Could these be fragments of Solomon's teachings carried south by fleeing scribes? In Ethiopia, ancient Christian texts speak of a book of kings, sealed and protected from fire, theft, and time. Could this be a relic of Solomon's hand? Some believe Solomon's system was hidden not only in vaults, but scattered across architecture, landscape, and sound. Cathedrals, temples, standing stones, locks, and keys to unseen places. If true, the legacy is not only underground, but across the surface, awaiting eyes capable of noticing. Modern seekers report stumbling upon lost texts, only to have them vanish before study. Perhaps Solomon hid his works not just from enemies, but from the faithful, to prevent misuse. His system was precise, delicate, tied to cosmic order. Used incorrectly, it could break the very balance it maintained. Could this explain why seekers often vanish or fall into obsession? Esoteric groups speak in whispers of a hidden library, a chamber of the seal holding Solomon's unedited words. Protected by silence, misdirection, and coded bloodlines, myth or unbroken guardianship. If even fragments remain, the discovery could change everything we know of spiritual history, architecture, and power. Perhaps that is why it remains buried, not forgotten, but protected until the world is ready. Until then, Solomon's legacy sleeps. Vaults of stone, scrolls of skin, symbols carved too deep to erase. Across time, kingdoms rise and fall, empires stretch across continents, religions rewrite the past. Yet Solomon's system, granting a man control over spirits, refuses to vanish. If even a fraction survived, the question remains, who controls it now? Not. Every treasure is gold. Some are silence, hidden knowledge, and guarded symbols. Modern secret societies, religious authorities, or shadowy lineages may preserve the last traces, not to use, but to ensure the system is never used. Could they be watching, not for profit, but for signs the ancient pact stirs? From Vatican vaults to Masonic chambers, from forgotten monasteries to state archives, hints remain. Pages of grimoirs, fragments of spirit seals, blueprints echoing sacred geometry. Could there be a hidden alliance, spread across nations, devoted not to power, but to containment? Some suggest it emerged after the Templar downfall, when Solomon's knowledge was discovered, studied, and feared. Certain truths were buried deeper than any tomb, not to be forgotten, but hidden in plain sight. Sealed by those who understood curiosity could be dangerous. Modern architecture, political symbols, and secret rituals carry echoes of Solomon's system, not direct invocations, but protective blueprints meant to keep it dormant. Perhaps these groups worship secrecy not as a virtue, but as a shield. If the ring, the names, or the seals were found, what might awaken? Could the guardians themselves fail to understand what they protect? Could symbolic oaths hide real knowledge, bound in code, read only by those chosen as watchers? Some say guardians are chosen, not by will, but by bloodlines or dreams, passing responsibility suddenly across generations. Could this explain obsessions, disappearances, or mysterious deaths tied to ancient institutions? Perhaps Solomon's system remains suppressed, not destroyed, locked by those who fear what would happen if it were recreated in the modern world, where science and spirit might meet, and invisible forces could shift global power in a single night. An individual with partial access to the 72 names, sacred measurements, or original seals could wield more than any weapon, control over fear, faith, and events rippling unseen. Could this be the real treasure of the legends? Not coins, but a structure, a method turning temples into engines of will. Perhaps someone already holds it, watching carefully, ensuring no one rediscover it unprepared. The whispers about Solomon may not be warnings of pride, but of success. A man who nearly touched spiritual authority, and the generations who have worked quietly to ensure no one does again. Yet power, buried deep, always calls back. What if something is stirring now? Symbols noticed, patterns rediscovered, scrolls translated. Will the guardians act swiftly, or watch to see if the system can be revived and contained? The fear is not misuse, but use without restraint. Names spoken, seals turned, spirits once bound beneath the temple answering a new master. Solomon's system, divine or forbidden, never fully left. It sleeps in stone, line, ritual, memory. And if the stories are true, the final secret of the temple is not who controlled it, but who does, now, and whether the silence will hold. Could the echoes of Solomon's power still move unseen among us? If you believe the past still speaks, follow its voice. Hit like and subscribe for more journeys into the secrets time tried to erase.